You know what's strange about some people? They can walk into a room and instantly feel something's off, even when no one has said a word yet. It's not obvious, it's not loud, and it's definitely not something they show off. But it's always there, running quietly in the background of everything they do. Most of the time, they just assume everyone experiences the world like this. Like this level of awareness is normal, like everyone notices the same details. But the truth is, most people don't. Most people miss the subtle shifts that feel impossible for you to ignore. And that's where things start to get interesting. Because this kind of awareness usually doesn't come from nowhere. It's not something you learn in school or pick up from a book. It's something your brain develops when it has to adapt early on. There's actually a name for this pattern that psychologists are starting to explore. It's called traumatic intelligence, and it explains more than you might think. Now, before you misunderstand that term, it's not about being broken or damaged. It's about how the brain adapts under pressure and becomes sharper in certain ways. At some point in your life, paying attention wasn't optional. You had to notice things, read people, and stay one step ahead. Maybe it was subtle, maybe it was obvious, but your brain got the message. Stay alert, understand fast, and don't miss what could matter. And over time, that constant awareness became automatic. You didn't choose it, it just became part of how you function. So let's break this down, because once you see these patterns clearly, you might start recognizing them in yourself more than you expected. One of the first signs is how quickly you read environments. You walk into a space and immediately sense tension, comfort, or something in between. No one needs to explain it to you or point anything out. Your brain picks up on posture, tone, silence, and energy all at once. It might feel like intuition, but it's actually pattern recognition. Your mind scanning for signals it learned were important a long time ago. Another sign is how deeply you feel other people's emotions, sometimes even before they fully understand what they're feeling themselves. Someone says they're fine, but something in you doesn't buy it. You notice the hesitation, the tone shift, the slight change in behavior. And the strange part is, you're usually right about it, even when you can't fully explain how you know. Psychologists often refer to this as heightened empathy or hyper-awareness, and it tends to develop in people who had to track emotions closely growing up. Another pattern you might notice is how you respond under pressure. When things get chaotic, something in you actually becomes more focused. Instead of shutting down immediately, your mind starts organizing. You think through possibilities, outcomes, and what needs to happen next. It's almost like your brain has been here before, even if the situation is new, because at some level, high-stress environments feel familiar to you. Then there's the way you analyze people and situations constantly, not in a casual way, but in a deep, almost automatic way. You replay conversations, think about what was really meant, and try to understand the motives behind what others do. It's not that you want to overthink everything. It's that your brain doesn't easily turn that process off. You became a student of human behavior without even realizing it. Because at some point, understanding people felt necessary. Another sign shows up in how you approach trust. You don't give it away quickly, and there's a reason for that. You've learned that not everything is as it seems on the surface. So your brain builds filters to protect you from being caught off guard. This doesn't mean you're negative or closed off. It just means your trust is earned, not assumed. And when you do trust someone, it tends to run deep, because it takes a lot for you to feel safe enough to open up. Independence is another pattern that often shows up. You're used to figuring things out on your own, without relying too much on others. Even when help is available, something in you hesitates. Not because you don't want support, but because you're used to self-reliance. Over time, that turns into a kind of quiet strength. You handle things internally that most people would immediately share. Emotions also tend to feel more intense for you than for others. Not just negative ones, but positive experiences as well. Music, conversations, small moments, they all seem to hit deeper, like your emotional system is tuned to a higher sensitivity. And while that can be overwhelming at times, it also allows you to experience life in a more vivid way. But there's another side to this that people rarely talk about, and that's how difficult it can be to truly relax. When everything gets quiet, your mind doesn't always follow. It keeps moving, scanning, thinking, connecting. Even in safe environments, there's often a subtle sense of alertness, like part of you is still watching, still paying attention. This can make rest feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable, because your brain has spent so long in a state of readiness. You might also notice that being around people can be draining, not because you dislike them, but because you pick up so much. You notice shifts in tone, energy, and behavior constantly, and processing all of that takes more energy than most people realize. At the same time, you probably crave meaningful connection. Surface-level conversations often feel unsatisfying or empty. You're drawn to depth, honesty, and real understanding, because your mind naturally operates below the surface. And then there's the way you search for meaning in everything. Not in an abstract way, but in a very personal, internal way. You think about why people act the way they do, why certain patterns repeat, and what it all really means. It's not something you turn on and off. It's just how your mind works by default. Now here's the part that really matters. None of these traits are random or accidental. They are adaptations your brain developed over time, ways of navigating a world that required you to pay attention. And while those adaptations can feel exhausting, they also come with a unique kind of intelligence. The ability to understand people deeply, to see patterns others overlook and connect things quickly. But that doesn't mean it's easy to live with, because being this aware can feel like too much sometimes. Too many thoughts, too many observations, too many emotions, all happening at once, all the time. So the goal isn't to get rid of this awareness. It's to learn how to manage it in a way that doesn't drain you. To set boundaries with your energy and attention, and recognize when your mind needs a break. Because this way of thinking is powerful, but only when it's balanced with rest and control. So let me ask you something honestly. Do you recognize yourself in some of these patterns? Do you find yourself reading people before they speak, or feeling things more deeply than those around you? Do you notice how your mind rarely slows down, always analyzing, always trying to understand more? If that's the case, you're not alone in this, and you're definitely not broken in any way. You might just be someone whose brain adapted differently, someone who learned to see more because they had to. And once you understand that, things start to shift. You stop judging it and start learning how to work with it. If this connected with you on some level, there's a lot more to explore about how your mind works. So if you want to keep understanding yourself better, make sure you stick around and subscribe to the channel. And if you know someone who thinks this way too, share this with them, because it might help them make sense of it. Because sometimes, the biggest shift happens when you finally realize there's a reason you are the way you are.